Okay, so looking at this demo that we're trying to do, there's a couple things that I want us to think about before we just start trying to add an image. Now, right now, what do we see happening? We see basically a shape bouncing along the edges. Every time that we hit an edge, we switch the direction. So when we hit a edge on the left or right, then we're switching our x speed from a positive to negative value or vice versa. When we hit the top of the bottom, we switch our y speed from a positive to negative value and vice versa. Okay, but what we want is we want to end up drawing this DVD logo. Now there's a couple problems that we need to think about, and I don't know if you guys can see this, but as this continues to play, it looks like it's like a little bit, like it's a little jittery. And the reason why it's doing that is because this code is intentionally written to not be efficient. I'm using what's called the tint effect. And what is that? Well, in P5.js, basically we could take any image, anything, and we could place a tint on top of it. So really it's just like I'm just applying like a color channel that I'm looking through when I'm looking at any type of image. Which it makes it so we can do some really cool stuff, but when we are updating things frequently, so that's literally 60 times a second, and the thing is changing, it is actually starting to slow down because JavaScript is written on top of a browser. It's not meant to do really intensive processing. Okay, so doing this tint over and over and over, what does the tint do? Well, basically it's touching every single pixel of that image and adjusting what it looks like. So we really don't want to do a tint as an effect. But what we have done before is we've basically just taken shapes and put a fill on top of it. And we've done that, and that is super, super smooth. And that doesn't really affect anything because it's not intensive. It's really, really easy to run. I'm not looking at like in a pixel array and pulling the red, green, and blue channels off of an individual pixel and then calculating stuff. I'm just coloring an entire shape. Okay, so the way that we think about an issue when we're approaching a solution would help in our design. In this case, if we're looking at this DVD logo, instead of me thinking that this is a white background that I need to get rid of and make a transparency of, and having this black that I want to tint to different colors, what if I think of this in a different way? If I know that my background is going to be a solid black color, what if this writing was my selection and I got rid of it and that was my transparency part? And I had a rectangle behind it that I just color whenever we hit an edge. So I just change the color whenever we hit an edge. Really, it looks like that lettering is changing colors, but it's like a trick. I'm layering on top. Okay, and we know how to do this. We've done this with push and pop. We have made multiple shapes and stacked them on top of each other. So just thinking of it is helpful. So now, really all we got to do is we got to try to find that logo, and we want to take that logo and edit it in Photopea. Okay, so right here, I mean, all I need to do is I just need to search for a logo. I just need to find something. Okay, so let's say I'm looking at this one right here. Let's open it up. Now, the first thing that I see transparency. I see the checkerboard here, so that should be an SVG or a PNG. If it is, it will hold that transparency information, which means basically what I need to do is I need to reverse this. I need this black to be the transparency and the rest to be actually colored black. So we want to kind of switch this. Okay, so let's go ahead and download this. And I can download it as a SVG. It doesn't really matter. So let's say it's full resolution. I'm going to want to save this. So if I'm clicking here and doing save as, see how that's trying to do a SVG? That's okay. Now there's other ways that I could do this. I can also do, we could do this one. Basically, I'm still just doing save image as. And either it's going to do it as SVG or PNG. Either one, it doesn't really matter as long as when I'm in Photopea, I'm paying attention to it to see what's happening. So I'm just going to drag and drop. First thing that I see that that transparency is still there. So that's okay. I can deal with this. If it doesn't, the steps are going to be basically the same. I do want to resize this so it's taking up that whole space. And check it. Okay. Now, what do I want to do? I want to basically take this shape and I want to reverse it. So I do need to make the selection and I'm going to want to hold on to it. So if I use the magic tool and I select this. Now, if contiguous is selected, so let me undo this. Deselect. If contiguous is selected, then it means only the stuff that's of that color that's touching. So it may not hit everything. You may end up getting it where it's not getting all of it. But if you're just going by color, then having contiguous shut off makes it a little bit easier. So I could select all this. Now what do I want to do with it? Well, if I just delete it, I deleted that, but now I no longer see anything. All of it's transparent except for that selection layer. I could undo it. I can hit Control Z. I could switch my selection to inversing this, okay, where it means that I'm selecting everything except for this DVD and this the DVD logo thing. And I could choose to maybe paint that part. So this is what that would look like. I could do this, and let's say instead of me doing black, I want to do white. Let's flip these. Okay, there we go. All right, so that was because I had it selected the other part. Now if I wanted to go and inverse that selection, now I'm selected back on that DVD part, and I could delete that. So now if I brought a shape, just so we could see what that would look like, I bring a shape underneath, let's say it was black, what would that look like? Let's flip these. It looks like it's the same thing, but now this background right here, if I change this to a different color, what does that look like? Now it's blue, now it's pink, now it's white, now it's yellow, now it's gray. Okay, so really all I did was I switched the selection here of the background. The black I deleted off, and now the background I have. Now, we don't actually want this background to be white, though. We want it to be black. So I want to, with my selection, let's inverse that again. And we want to paint. What do we want to paint? We want to paint black. So I want to be here. That is the background that I want to select. Okay. So now that I have that, I have my DVD, the transparency part, and then the background is all black. Okay. Now, if I wanted to see what that would kind of look like, so now I could deselect everything. I could place a layer underneath so we can see what that's going to look like. I could put a shape on behind it that's gray. Here's pink. Here's red. Here's green. Here's blue. Okay. Every time we hit an edge, we could switch it. Okay. So this is basically what we want. Now I only need this layer selected. Okay. So I could go File, Export as a PNG. I need to make sure that I keep that transparency layer, and then I can give it a name. All right. I want to call it DVD logo. And it will be a PNG file. So DVD logo. Now that I have that, I can actually just pull it in. So here, I'm not going to do the full thing. I know that I'm going to load an image. I know that I'm going to end up doing a preload. Let's go ahead and add that image. Upload file. We're uploading this. There it is. Now, how could we implement? Well, let's load this. So we got to have something that's going to hold it. Now, obviously, you guys are going to have your object. Your object is going to end up holding the image. In this case, so I'm just doing a simple example. So let's say I call it image 1 and image 1 equals, let's see, I forget the code. Preload image, load image. There's my name. I'm just going to copy and paste this. But I am pulling the DVD underscore logo dot PNG. If I run this, I should get no error. Now when I draw, I can draw that image. I could draw image 1, and then give it maybe that mouse X, mouse Y in this case, and a size. So this would probably be the same thing that I would be doing for the other shapes. There it is. It's sized that way. Now notice how it's orange. That's because I'm filling that rectangle. So if I change this to maybe 200, and this to 100, and this to 200, what do I get? I get now a pink, but it still looks like it. So I'm doing a trick. If I change my background, what do I see? There we go. There's our bouncing logo. Bounce, 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 bounce. Okay? So it's a trick. Now, if I am not paying attention to stroke, if not paying attention to actually making sure that the black for the PNG is straight up black, if I have a little bit of an edge, I kind of break this illusion. But this is the idea that we would do to create this. So now that I end up having something that I've edited to look like this, now I just need to implement that into my code to have that DVD logo bouncing. Okay. Now how to implement that color change? All we really need to do is, if we already have that code set up for every time it bounces or hits that edge, we have a collision and we switch directions, then at that point, I could call a object color change function. So a custom function that I create that will run only when we hit an edge, either top, bottom, left, or right. And if we do that, then it will fire and change the background color or the background fill for that rectangle. All right, good luck. Have fun.